Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, regular meeting for the month of June on Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. The current time is 7:05. Let's see. Both adequate and electronic notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act has been satisfied and a statement certifying same will be executed. Will everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can't go back to live. We sync this.
Yeah. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. GYORFY?
Here.
Mr. Mancuso?
Here.
Mr. RAVITZ?
Here.
Mrs. Wilson?
Here.
Mayor GRAYZEL?
Here. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. First on the agenda is approval of minutes for May 19th, regular and closed session, and the May 26th special meeting. Will somebody move the meeting minutes, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
All right, very good. I'm going to move around the agenda a little bit. I want to speak to the dedication of Captain Brian McNally Field. That's so every month we honor somebody in our community for things that they have done on behalf of the community, to benefit the community, to acknowledge their good things, their good deeds, and how they help us all with what they do. We don't have a live presentation tonight because we are having a special presentation this Saturday. We are dedicating a field, and that dedication is taking place at 10 a.m. This Saturday at Fruitland Green Park off of Weathervane Drive in the Cromwell Hill section of Morris Township. And I wanted to just read into the record a little bit about Captain Brian McNally for those of you who can't attend on Saturday. Brian John McNally is a New Jersey State Trooper and a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps. McNally passed away suddenly on Sunday, May 20th, 2018 from the result of a car accident. He lived most of his life in Morris Township. Brian was a 2006 graduate of Morristown High School, where he played football and lacrosse and was a member of the swim team. As a member of Boy Scout Troop 34, he earned the achievement of Eagle Scout. Additionally, he was president of Heritage Club, a volunteer with Morris Habitat of Humanity, and a Cromwell Hills lifeguard at our pool. At the age of 14, he became certified EMT with the Morris Minutemen, the local ambulance squad here, and at age 16, he was a volunteer member of the Morris Township Fire Department. He then attended the Citadel, where he participated with the Color Guard, attended Officer Candidate School the summer of his junior year, and was the XO for Palmetto Battery Company in his senior year. He graduated in May 2010 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps. Brian attended and graduated from the Marines Basic School at Quantico, Virginia, prior to being stationed at 29 Palms, California, as a member of the Wolfpack Infantry Unit. Brian served as an active duty Marine for 4 years, attaining the rank of first lieutenant, including a tour in Afghanistan, and as a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves. In March 2014, he attended the New Jersey Police Academy and graduated in August of that year. And as I said, he was a New Jersey State Trooper at the time of his passing in 2018. We have been looking to do something in his honor for several years now, and we are very happy to be able to do that this Saturday with acknowledgement of all his good deeds in his memory to dedicate the field at Fruitland Green Park. So I do invite the public to join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. Again, it's off of Weathervane Drive in the Cromwell Hill section of Morris Township. Thank you. Next on our agenda is Eagle Scout recognition for Nicholas Chin, Morristown Boy Scout Troop 228. And there is an Eagle Scout ceremony on June 26th, and we're going to be presenting him with this plaque at that time. But I want to state for the record that on behalf of the Township Committee, we congratulate Nicholas on receiving the Eagle Scout Award, the highest honor of Boy Scouts. Over the years, the Eagle Scout Award has come to signify diligence, high moral standards, and love of country. We are delighted to join with his family, friends, and fellow Scouts in commending him on his tremendous accomplishment. The Township Committee knows that a long road what a long road this has been for you, completing an extensive service project and passing board review. The admirable qualities you have developed during the journey will help guide you through your life. We are always proud of the young people in our community and are especially proud of the contribution you yourself have made. So Nicholas, please accept our congratulations on behalf of the entire Township Committee on your important achievement, and I look forward to being a participant in your Court of Honor on June 26th. Okay, now we're going to go back to the proclamation. June is Pride Month all across the country, and we are acknowledging Pride Month here in New Jersey with a Pride Month proclamation, and I would like to read that into the record as well. Whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Morris embraces diversity in our community and encourages inclusiveness from all who live and work in our town. And whereas celebrating Pride Month raises awareness and provides support and advocacy for the LGBTQ community and is an opportunity to become educated, engage in dialogue, strengthen diligence, and build understanding. And whereas, while there has been remarkable progress towards acceptance and equality, members of the LGBTQ community continue to face discrimination, intolerance, and hate. And whereas the Melrose Township Committee supports an end to all forms of prejudice and discrimination. And whereas all people, regardless of age, gender, identity, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical challenges, have the right to be treated on the basis of their intrinsic value as human beings. And whereas in 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States affirmed the fundamental right to marry that is guaranteed to, Whereas in 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States affirmed the fundamental right to marry that is guaranteed to same-sex couples. And whereas in June 2020, the Supreme Court of the United States made one of the most consequential decisions on workplace discrimination in ruling that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects LGBTQ workers. And whereas we must commit to supporting and accepting LGBTQ individuals, in particular our youth, who compared to their peers are far more likely to experience violence and bullying at school, suffer depression, to struggle with substance abuse, and to have attempted suicide. And whereas we must remain vigilant against continued oppression and discrimination against the LGBTQ community, and whereas by protecting the rights of every individual, we enhance and strengthen the value of everyone throughout our society, and whereas the Morris Township Committee urges all residents to respect and honor our diverse community and celebrate and build culture, inclusiveness, and acceptance. And whereas we affirm our support for LGBTQ residents in our community and stand with them to protect their civil rights and their ability to live openly and without fear. And therefore, the Township Committee of the Township of Morris recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2021 as Pride Month. And we celebrate and support the LGBTQ community's right to live their lives with visibility, equality, and dignity during this month and every month. And I am very pleased that this proclamation has been signed by all 5 members of our Township Committee. I know that hasn't happened in all towns, but we stand here united here in Morris Township behind this proclamation, and I am very pleased that has happened. So thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have public comment and inquiry. And just to remind the public, we have 2 sessions of public comments. We have one in the beginning, so you can ask your questions and then leave us, or you can stay through the whole meeting and then ask us some questions at the end. So I will open it up now to public commentary and ask if we have anybody with their hand raised.
Person just raised her hand. Hugh Giordano.
Hugh Giordano. Mr. Giordano, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Hugh Giordano, 57 Argyle Avenue, Blackwood, New Jersey.
Where in New Jersey?
Blackwood, New Jersey.
Blackwood. Thank you, sir.
Yes, no problem. Mayor and committee persons, I'm here today as representative of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW, Local 152. And we are the official labor union which represents cannabis workers from seed to sale, both medical and adult use. US and Canada, and we are a private sector union of 1.3 million hardworking members. We are also working hand in hand with our brothers and sisters in the New Jersey building trades for the retrofit and build out these facilities. When it comes to cannabis, New Jersey has passed one of the strongest laws in the country when it comes to labor rights within the cannabis industry. These jobs are going to come with living wages, healthcare, sick time, vacation, paternity leave, and of course, retirement. These jobs are also skilled jobs. Most of these workers come with degrees in chemistry, botany, horticulture, even in the dispensaries in the front end, in the retail sectors, we have pharmacists that work there. So these are high-end middle-class jobs that will attract young, educated families to live in the township of Morris. The UFCW is asking that this ordinance to opt out, aka ban the industry, ban good jobs in township of Morris. We would ask that you table this ordinance. I would offer two suggestions. The first suggestion is the city of Bayonne. City of Bayonne passed an ordinance about a month and a half ago, which lays out not only renewal fees and application fees and what type of industry they're going to allow, but also lays out a merit-based system, which looks at things such as environmental standards, labor standards, security standards, community standards, even research and development. This is a way to control who comes in and what type of business atmosphere they're going to bring. This is a way to make sure that people will come into the community, create good jobs, but also take care of the community as far as environment and other factors that affect working people. On top of that, I'd like to suggest that you take a tour of the Garden State Dispensary, which is a vertically integrated facility from seed to sale. You can see the whole process from the time a plant is grown to the time it is processed, and packaged and sold to patients. You can see the security and also how on premise there are retired police officers that work security. So it's one of the most secure facilities probably in the state, even more secure than a pharmacy or a bank. So in saying that, on behalf of the AFL-CIO, the UFCW, and the New Jersey Building Trades, we would ask that the Township of Morris table this ordinance, adopt the City of Bayonne ordinance, and create good union jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to hold my comments until we get to the point in the agenda where we actually speak to that ordinance, but thank you for those comments. Do we?
Mark McGillicuddy.
Mark McGillicuddy?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McGillicuddy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. And yeah, and
Name and address.
we need your name and address, sir.
Yep. Mark McGillicuddy, 10 Brookfield Way in Morris Township. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I contacted some on this committee via email about the status of Hayward Park and the some of the cleanup that needed to be done. I recently learned that others in the community have reached out similarly about kind of the dilapidated nature of the park. And in the last week or so, I have noticed that there was immediate action taken. So I do appreciate that on, doing some weeding and doing the, cutting the grass and things like that. But I was hoping to get an update on if there's anything you could share on the next steps for the park and, taking it beyond just the basic level of maintenance that occurred over the last week or so.
Very good. Can I turn that over to you?
Certainly. Mr. McGillicuddy, the Parks and Recreation Advisor, Parks and Recreation Standing Committee, along with myself and our Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Bill Folsch, had it. We're going to be updating the committee on that. We have a meeting tomorrow, and we'll probably have some more additional information to share sometime in the beginning of next week, and certainly can reach out to you. I have your email from the PowerPoint that you had sent us with your concern.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. It's just not just an opportunity to show off my PowerPoint skills, although I was proud of that. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. McGillicuddy, thank you very much for the time you spent putting that presentation together. It actually was very helpful. And we really do appreciate when residents like you reach out and inform us of things that do need improving, things that we've missed. So I appreciate all the time you spent and the follow-up. So we're going to get around to fixing everything there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else?
We have
Charlene Anderson.
Mrs. Charlene Anderson.
Charlene Anderson.
Hi. Hi,
Yes, we can hear you. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Charlene Anderson, 7 Emmett Avenue.
Good evening.
Hi. Two things I'd like to present to the committee. The stacking at 17 Emmett Avenue. And I would also like to know why the Menon area is called the collection at Morristown, as opposed to Morristown, Township of Morris or Morris Township.
Okay, so technically, I think the marketplace is called the marketplace at Morris. Right? Oh, are you talking about the housing complex?
Yes.
The housing
She's
complex. Yeah. So you are correct about the housing complex. It does say Morristown. It is a private facility, and they control what they call themselves. Is all I can say about that. It's unfortunate, and we have an identity crisis of sorts here in Morris Township about that. And we are reaching out to everybody who does now build in our town to ask them to use the Morris Township name. But again, it's a private facility, and they can call themselves, I think, whatever they want. Correct?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah. And on the stacking, Mr. Quinn will look into that. And we don't want to speak to that right now, but we will look into that in the appropriate way.
Okay, so Mr. Quinn, I will hear from you in a bit.
Yeah, as you know, we've looked at this concern many times, and I will have my property maintenance and my zoning look at it again.
Okay, and you should also know that the police had to be called on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend to that residence.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Stay vertical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Thanks for joining us tonight.
There's nobody else at this time, sir.
Nobody else?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public
Motion to
commentary.
close, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Now we have ordinances for public hearing and final consideration. We have 4 ordinances on the agenda tonight, and I will turn it over to Mr. Carlson to read into the record 16-21.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances of the Township of Morris entitled Chapter 146 Utilities, Article 2 Municipal Utilities, Section 6 Compensation. This is an increase in compensation for board members, and this is for public hearing and final consideration.
Thank you. And this relates to board members for our water utility, the Southeast Morris SMC, what's the C?
Morris County Municipal Utility Authority.
Morris County Municipal Utilities Authority. Thank you. So they get a stipend, and that stipend hasn't been increased in something like 20 years.
Correct. The last stipend they got increased was 2020, but because of the makeup of the organization, it has to be done by ordinance by each of the 4 original members of the utility.
Very good. So we're just increasing the stipend that we give these guys for all the time that they put in on our water utility. So will somebody move 16-21? Thank you, sir.
1621, sir.
Thank you. I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So since this is a public hearing for final consideration, I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions or comments about 16-21. If you do have a comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I will close the public commentary on 1621 and ask Madam Clerk for a roll call, please.
Mr. GYORFY,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. RAVITZ,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. Very good. And I just got notice that Mr. Chin joined us remotely. Mr. Chin, we're going to have a second public commentary section in a short while, so just please stay with us and I'll acknowledge you when we get to that. Thank you. Next on the agenda is 1721. Mr. Carlson?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an,
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Mancuso, did you have something to say?
you have to read your notice.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This relates to 1621. Thank you. I, Jeffrey GRAYZEL, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Thank you very much, Peter. And that again relates to 16-21. Mr. Carlson, 1721.
all right, this is an ordinance amending Chapter 88 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Section 88-9.1, and Schedule 18, one-way streets. This is to implement the recommendation of the Township Engineer and the Police Department.
Very good. And this relates to a new daycare center that's at Con Road, the corner of Con Road and Old Turnpike Road. And in order to get egress from the facility, we are allowing two-way traffic for a very short section of roadway on Old Turnpike Road. So will somebody move 17-21, please?
So moved, sir.
Second.
Thank you. I will open it up now for public questions and comments about ordinance 17-21. If you do have a comment about 1721, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you.
We have one, Mrs. Memmer and Mr. Riley was Mrs. Memmer.
Mrs. Memmer. Marlene, can you hear me?
Marlene Memmer, 63 Independence Way. Yes, in regards to that one way, or you're making it two ways now, that seems to be an awful narrow section of road there, because I have used it from where I live to get to, I believe it's, I forget the name of the new bank there that it comes out to, but, excuse me?
Yes, I know exactly what you're speaking of. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and it seems very narrow. Are you going to widen that for two-way traffic?
So when the building was originally constructed for the Montessori school, which previously occupied that building, that section of roadway, that small section of roadway was actually widened for that purpose, but the ordinance was never implemented. So it is wide enough for that short section to accommodate two-way traffic. You are correct that the rest of the roadway is not wide enough for two-way traffic, which is why we're just making that short section two ways. But you are spot on with your assessment.
We will do road markings too.
Yeah, and we're going to do appropriate road markings and signage so that people know that it's just two ways in that section. And again, it's just for egress from that building so that people can get out of that building and get back to Con Road.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Reilly.
Mr. O'Reilly? Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Unmute yourself.
We can't hear you yet.
I did, but I was muted.
Now we can hear you.
O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way. Like Marlene, I live in Liberty Greens and we're right adjacent to Old Turnpike. So from Convent Road to Punch Bowl, it's my experience, maybe I've been violating the traffic laws, but that it runs in both ways.
It is both ways.
Mr. O'Reilly, that section is both ways from Convent Road all the way down to Con Road is two-way traffic. This is the section between Con Road and Langdon Lane. It's a very small section.
Con Road and what lane?
Langdon Lane on the other side of Prescott Drive for going into the former Columbia. It's now the Columbia Park, former Honeywell property.
Like the western end of it.
That is correct, sir.
Yes, the very western end, the last block, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, you are correct. You are correct that it's two ways between Punch Bowl and Con Road, but between Langdon and Con Road, it's just one way.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So that's why we're making it two ways, just for the egress from that building.
But anyone can travel it two ways now, right? The egress from the building expresses your purpose in doing it. But a person on that road doesn't have to have come from the building anybody can take that road and both that segment in both directions, right?
Well, no, yeah, it's one way, and the only way you can go one way is by entering at the proper side of the road. So it's just two ways from the exit of the building back to Con Road.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll have to watch it.
Yes. Yep, go take a look, and if you have additional questions, you can come back next month and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else? Mrs. Memmer, did you re-raise your hand? Do you want to speak again?
She's reduced her.
Okay, very good.
Nobody else, sir.
Nobody else. So seeing nobody else.
Move to close the public comment portion, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. GYORFY,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. RAVITZ,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor GRAYZEL.
Yes. I, Jeffrey GRAYZEL, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. 1821, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 57, Land Development, Article 37 of the Code of the Township of Morris. These are amendments that are required by the NJDEP relating to stormwater, and my understanding is that this will be carried to July 21st, 2021, pending the Planning Board's review for master plan consistency.
Is that true?
That is correct. So I need a motion just to move it from today for public hearing for the July 21st meeting.
I would make that motion, sir.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Very good. So this ordinance 1821 will be heard at our meeting on July 21st. Mr. Carlson, 1921.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 57, Land Development. These are also amendments required by the NJDEP that relate to stormwater, and they are also being carried to July 21st, 2021, pending the Planning Board's master plan consistency review. Just need a motion to do that.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Now we'll move on to ordinances for introduction. Mr. Carlson, 2021, please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance modifying and amending Chapter 32, Historic Preservation Commission, Section 57-159, Establishment, Membership, Powers, and Duties, and to amend Sections B, G, and H, and to add Sections I, J, K, and L. This is an ordinance modifying the membership requirements and listing of historic properties in the appendix.
Very good. And this is an ordinance crafted in conjunction with our Historic Preservation Committee, which has done a lot of work on this effort to help identify all the historic structures in our community and to ensure that if there's any modification of the structures, that the township is appropriately informed and can weigh in if necessary. Is that a correct summary?
Yes, sir, it is.
Very good. Thank you. Will somebody move 2021, please?
I will move it.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. And since this is just an ordinance for introduction, we're going to have a public hearing on this at our July 21st meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. GYORFY,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. RAVITZ,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor GRAYZEL.
Yes. And ordinance 2121, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you. Everyone might want to get comfortable for this recitation. This is an ordinance of the Township of Morris in the County of Morris and State of New Jersey, supplementing the Township Code with a new chapter entitled Chapter 205, Cannabis, Prohibition of All Classes of Businesses, so as to prohibit the operation of any class of cannabis business within its geographical boundaries, and further to supplement Section 95-8, entitled General Regulations and Restrictions of Chapter 95, entitled Zoning of the Code of the Township of Morris, so as to prohibit the use by any class of licensed cannabis businesses upon any premises in any zone in the Township of Morris. That's probably the longest sentence I've ever read. And I will note that this is an ordinance to opt out of the 6 licensed business types of cannabis. businesses pending the Cannabis Regulatory Commission's rulemaking.
Very good, thank you. And I'm going to ask for a first and a second, and then we're going to have a little bit of committee discussion on this matter. So will somebody move 2121?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. So now I'm going to open it up for commentary. I will start, and maybe I'll have some comments at the end. This is something that everybody knows that there was a referendum by the state of New Jersey. The voters passed it by about a 2/3 to 1/3 margin. That was very similar to the margin right here in Morris Township. So we're going to have cannabis coming to New Jersey. The problem is that the state has not put out all of the regulations yet, but they are requiring the municipalities to either opt into whether they're going to have one of these 6 classes, and the classes range from growing all the way to distribution and all the things that go on in between. We don't have enough clarity on what the state is going to be requiring. We heard from a member of the public before about what other towns such as Bayonne are doing, and I've reviewed what Bayonne has done, and it's actually very, very good work. But we do not currently have a zone in Morris Township that we can define as an area that could, we would feel comfortable with the sale or anything else relating to cannabis. We have an idea of maybe one area of town, but we would have to create a new zone for it. And there just is simply not enough time for us to do that before the deadline, unfortunately. And the deadline the state has set is a very hard deadline. And if you don't meet the deadline, you are automatically opting into everything. And so what most municipalities have done is to opt out until we have a greater understanding of what the regulations are going to be when they're given to us in August. And then we will have the ability to opt back in with that clarity and give us the time to create an appropriate zone if we choose to do so. But the public should be clear that cannabis is coming. Just because we are opting out doesn't stop it from coming to the state of New Jersey. Part of this legislation allows it to be delivered to your homes. So even if we do opt out and there is nothing in Morris Township, they are still going to have home delivery of cannabis in our town and every other town in the state. So, my personal opinion is that if it's going to be delivered to our town, that and I should preface this by saying that the legislation allows for a 2% tax. So if you do have a cannabis outlet in your town, whether it's manufacturer or wholesale distribution, retail, whatever you opt into out of the 6 classes, you can impose a 2% tax. And it's my personal opinion that if we're going to be having it in our town anyway, we might as well get a little bit of tax revenue. But we don't have the proper location defined yet. And that's why at this point, I am going to vote for this opt-out ordinance. But I would like this committee to take a look at where the possibilities could happen in our town. And when the time comes, we should consider opting back in, possibly using the framework that Bayonne has set out, which is a very nice framework that we could use here. So those are my comments. I will pass it on to any other committee members who have a comment. Mr. GYORFY.
Yeah, Mayor, appreciate the time. I did want to just give a high-level overview from the Legislation Standing Committee's perspective, since Kathy, Committeewoman Wilson, and I kind of took charge in managing this because it came under our subcommittee's jurisdiction. So as many of the residents following may know, on May 27th, the Standing Committee hosted a public information session for residents to learn more about New Jersey's new cannabis laws. Joining us were Township Administrator Tim Quinn and Township Attorney Scott Carlson. During the session, Mr. Carlson provided a presentation outlining the details of the state cannabis laws. And following the presentation, we listened to comments from the public and answered questions. I encourage residents to watch the video, which is posted on our Township website. It also went out in the municipal messenger. And you're also able to view the presentation slides as well, should you want to. As highlighted during that session, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission's deadline to create the regulations governing the sale, cultivation, and distribution of cannabis is the same as the deadline for the municipalities to decide whether or not they will like to permit certain classes of cannabis in their towns. Effectively, municipalities are required to adopt local ordinances prior to final regulations being promulgated. Municipalities that opt out by the August 22nd deadline have the ability to opt in at any time over the next 5 years. However, should we not opt out by that deadline, you are essentially requiring any of those classes you are permitting to have the ability to be in your town for 5 years. So as our recommendation, which is where we are tonight, after reviewing the laws and details with the members of the committee, our professional staff, and members of the public, we recommend to the Township Committee to pass this opt-out ordinance, as other neighboring towns recently have. By opting out ahead of the deadline, the Township provides itself with the most flexibility as municipalities await the final regulations from the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. Once the CRC, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, issues its final regulations, the members of the governing body will complete a thorough review and provide additional opportunity for residents to participate in that conversation. So I appreciate the comments before about Bayonne. I think it's a pretty innovative process and stance that they're taking. And, you know, I'm looking forward to just seeing how they actually implement it over the next several months. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll yield back.
Very good. And I'll thank you. I should have done that up front. Thank you and Committeewoman Wilson for holding that public session. Mr. Quinn was there as well as Mr. Carlson. Thank you very much for doing that for the benefit of the public. As always, we record our meetings. You can find that on our YouTube channel. If you can't find it, just email one of us and we'll point you in the right direction. But it's on our website, morris2wp.com. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Peter.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Peter, go ahead.
I echo the comments of the mayor and Mr. GYORFY. Since we don't know all of these states' regulations, I think it's the intelligent thing to do, just to reassert and reaffirm what they have said, to wait until we know what all the rules and regulations are. So I support the ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Ravitz?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I got to be honest with you. It pains me to vote for this ordinance, only because the state has given us such strict guidelines that it, for our township, is virtually impossible to meet. Finding the location, dealing with the zoning issues, et cetera, et cetera. It was just too strict. It didn't make any sense, and it took a lot of control out of our township governing body and put it in the hands of other people, and that's just not going to be acceptable to me. And I really want to be forthcoming with that. I absolutely support marijuana coming to our township, but we have to do it right. We have to do it smart, and we do want to wait to see what transpires from out of Trenton. A lot of towns are opting in. Perhaps they are opting in because they can move faster, or they have different land usage than we have in our town. I think those who are opting in are going to find that they're going to grab a lot of market share, or the businesses that come into their town are going to grab a lot of market share. And I think that there's a lot of revenue to be had from a business opening up in town, as the mayor had said, the 2% tax on gross revenues and whatnot. So I do look forward to that point, getting to that point where, the governing body of Morris Township, really can cross the T's and dot the I's, so to speak, and pass a good ordinance. And I look forward to, more input from the town, from the residents, once we have all that together. So, like I said, it does pain me to vote no, but it's the smart thing. I'll yield back.
Thank you. Committeewoman Wilson?
Make one.
Yes, go ahead.
Me?
Yes, go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, yes, thank you. I would just say I view this in terms of one step at a time. We have to have these state rules and regulations before we can proceed, in my opinion. And so that's what we're doing with this opt-out ordinance. I'm open to hearing a range of views that I know are out there. I had not heard of what was going on in Bayonne before tonight. I will look into that. And I do anticipate that we'll probably end up having another public meeting. And I will look forward to hearing what our residents have to say. I will say that my preliminary conversations with people, I'm seeing quite a range of views on what to do. And so I'm interested to hear more about what people think, what your questions are, what your recommendations are, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Mayor. That's it.
Very good. Thanks. I think everybody has articulated our point of view very well. I line up with Mr. Ravitz that the people have voted for it. I believe I'm a public servant. The residents of our municipality voted in favor of legalizing cannabis. We just have to use our good judgment as to how best to situate it in our township. But just to be clear, when it does become legal, there is going to be home delivery of cannabis. So it is coming. There is no stopping it from coming to Morris Township. Okay, so with that said, we are going to take a roll call. Madam Clerk?
Mr. GYORFY,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. And there will be a second reading and public hearing of ordinance 21-21 on July 21st at our regular meeting. Next on the agenda are resolutions. We have resolutions 123, 21, 145, all the way through 145-21. Does anybody have any resolutions that they need pulled separately?
I don't have anything to pull, but I do have a couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead.
On 125-21, the Clean Communities Grant. Can you, Mr. Quinn, just give a little quick summary of what we use that for?
Right. We use that, a lot of that for our maintenance of our open space and our parks is the primary source of that funding that we use for the part-timers that come in for that. We also work on some other areas of the township that we can do improvements of with that funding, but it's primarily for additional staff to come in and help maintain our parks and open space areas.
Okay, thank you. And then can you clarify on 129-21 what pocket license status means?
A pocket license status is the facility is not open. They don't anticipate opening during the foreseeable future. The state of New Jersey allows them to maintain that license, and being pocket means that it's like they have the license, but it's not going to be used. This is for the RH project at 355 Madison Avenue. And once that is open, they'll have a wine bar and restaurant as part of the facility. So it just maintains the liquor license until they're ready to open.
All right. So
Okay.
the term pocket means they're just holding it in their pocket instead of utilizing it. I think that's where the pocket comes from.
That is correct.
Okay, I thought so, but I wanted to clarify. And 136-21, alcohol education and rehabilitation grant. Is that what funds are, or that gets contributed to the municipal alliance
No, ma'am.
or not?
No, that comes from the state, and it's primarily used with the police department and the courts for special sessions for drunk driving cases. Those kinds of things is the source of that. So we can use that to offset overtime and the cost of the court to run those special sessions for the DWI proceedings.
Okay, thank you.
The municipal alliance is covered in resolution 134-21.
Any further questions?
I'll offer the resolutions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. GYORFY,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. Next on the agenda is general business correspondence as circulated. Consent calendar, which is attachment A. Will somebody move that?
So moved.
In a second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we're up to the point on the agenda where we discuss standing committee reports. Standing committees are the functional responsibility that each of us has of oversight of the various functions at the township, ranging from things like finance and fire, police, recreation, all sorts of things. So we're going to go around the horn. Tonight, I will start with Committeewoman Wilson. We'll start with you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I have two standing committee reports, Personnel and Environment. First, Personnel. Following the retirement of our longtime clerk, Kathy Emilio, and the interviews that were conducted by the Personnel Standing Committee, which is Committeeman Mancuso and myself, Administrator Quinn, and our HR manager, Virginia Murphy, we have extended an offer of employment, and it's been accepted to Danielle Lewis. She will be joining us in July. Our interim clerk, Don McDonald, will be staying with us until the end of July. And I did want to extend thanks to Dawn for doing such a great job over the last couple of months. We really appreciate your service. And I want to extend congratulations in advance to Danielle, who will be joining us in her new official capacity at our next Township Committee meeting. On the energy, environment, and sustainability, our Environmental Commission continues to brim with energy ideas and activities. A couple of highlights. At last week's EC meeting, a group of students from Unity Charter School presented the results of research they've been doing on various issues related to electric vehicles. Topics included long-term goals for electrical vehicle registration, locally and statewide, emissions, batteries, chargers, and more. Lots of interesting questions and discussion. Kudos to the students for their excellent work. Special thanks to EC member Jen Karsich, who is an administrator at Unity School. She coordinated this project, and it was really a great learning experience for everybody, for the kids and for the adults as well. On site plan reviews, I want to commend our EC for the skill they're building in their ability to do effective site plan reviews. I thought their recently completed site review of the Abbey was especially well done. This report will provide helpful information to the planning board when a site plan application for the Abbey comes before the planning board starting on July 12th. Doing site plan reviews is the only responsibility that by law the EC is required to do. And honestly, even with the help of our engineering professionals, which everyone really appreciates, doing a site plan review can be a pretty formidable job. Special thanks to our EC chair, Buzz Kenny, for organizing a virtual training webinar on this topic that Morris Township will be hosting next Tuesday, June 22nd at 7 o'clock. Presenters from ANJEC and Rutgers will be leading the training. The flyer is being shared with ECs from surrounding towns. Given the widespread interest in this topic, a lot of ECs are very interested in learning more about this. A large turnout would not be at all surprising. I want to thank Mr. Quinn for handling the registration, and thank you to our tech staff for handling the Zoom arrangements. The Outreach Committee continues to expand its communication with the public through the newsletter, messenger articles, and articles that are being shared with the press. I encourage everyone, as usual, please sign up for their newsletter if you have not already. Go to the Township website, Government Environmental Commission, and that's where the link is to sign up. Morris Township was well represented last Saturday by many residents and Environmental Commission members at the Bio Blitz event that was held last Saturday from 10 to 4 at Lewis Morris Park. This event, which was, it was sponsored by the Whippany River Watershed Action Committee and the County Parks Commission. It included hikes, demonstrations, and exhibits that were enjoyed and appreciated by all. Finally, after much ongoing discussion over a long period of time, REC has reviewed possibilities for how Morris Township can join 219 other towns around our state in getting certified through the Sustainable Jersey certification program. The first formal step in participating in this program is for the governing body to pass a resolution establishing a green team. I'm happy to report that I'm expecting a request from REC to include a green team resolution at our July meeting. So I will be in touch with everybody on the Township Committee individually before then to answer any questions and sharing any additional information that you might be interested in. So that is it for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. I'm just going to go down the line as they appear on my screen. So Mr. Mancuso, you are next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
And this is just your committee report. So we're going to go down. We're going to come back for a regular commentary next.
Well, the committee reports and my regular comments sort of go with each other. So I'll just
Okay.
two of my committee reports.
Very good.
First of all, I'd just like to point out that Kathy Virengo, our township treasurer, has been our tax assessor, excuse me, has gotten tenure from our vote tonight. She is probably one of the best workers we have. She's very, very worthwhile. We consider her to be as good a part of our team, and we just offer her our great congratulations. I'll leave it. I have two other things to talk about, but I'll save them for my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much for acknowledging Kathy Virengo. I agree with you wholeheartedly. She is an asset to our municipality and an important member of the team here at Town Hall. Next, Mr. Ravitz.
Okay, I'll report on infrastructure and Parks and Rec this evening. We have a follow-up meeting tomorrow, 6/17, to discuss both our short-term and long-term vision strategy for with regard to infrastructure. If any problem is a good one to have, it's typically growth, and our township is growing strong and fast, and we're bursting at the seams in some of our facilities. To meet our growing needs, we plan to repurpose as much space as possible in our municipal properties, but in the long term, the standing committee will need to make a recommendation to the governing body as to the best way to accommodate additional office space needed to support our infrastructure. And so there's more to follow as a plan begins to take shape. With regard to Parks and Rec, please visit the township website, morristownship.com. Click through to departments and Parks and Recreation to peruse the latest brochure for the recreational programs and park facilities. As many of you are now aware, the capacity restrictions for our pools has been lifted, and all those who put their name on a waiting list for membership have been contacted and offered memberships. So it was good to clear that out, and I'm glad that everybody who wants a membership now can get one. In fact, there are still memberships available. So if you want to join one of the pool clubs this season, and you can join in the fun, sign up right now and you can get a spot. I also want to thank Bill Falsh and his dedicated team for ensuring our fields and pools are in great shape for this season. Park renovations are always a work in progress, and Collinsville Park renovation is one of our highest priorities. So as soon as we have manpower for that, we're going to be allocating resources for it. And that's it for my committee reports. Mayor, back to you.
Very good. Thanks. Deputy Mayor GYORFY.
Thank you, Mayor. For the Communications Standing Committee, I wanted to thank Mr. Quinn, Mr. Ravitz, and Virginia Murphy and Mr. Quinn's office for the productive meeting we had last week on the summer newsletter. We are working on building that out to be distributed in July. As always, the annual newsletter will go to all households. It'll have some important information about recycling, but also updates from the Township Committee, as well as important dates and guidelines from other departments. So be on the lookout for that this summer. And also, as always, we had office hours this month. Committeewoman Wilson and I had them. We'll have them each and every month. And we'll continue to put those notices out ahead of time. For the Legislation Standing Committee, we've been pretty busy this year already. This month's priority were the cannabis legislation, which we spoke to about already, but I did just want to note that, I think the Township Committee represents a good range of views on this issue, and I appreciate and respect all the opinions and viewpoints, and I'm glad that tonight we were able to come together on this decision in unison, because I think, as always, we all want what's best for Morris Township, and we felt that this was the prudent thing to do at this point as we await further clarification from the state. I'd also want to thank the committee for supporting the Pride Proclamation that was passed, or that we noted earlier this evening. And just wanted to remind members of the public that Morris County Pride is actually having an event in Morris Township at the Morris Museum on Saturday, June 26th. Lastly, for transportation, the Transportation Advisory Committee met earlier this month to discuss our drafted traffic calming policy and plans to continue deliberating on the details at our upcoming July meeting. We're also looking to formalize a summer projects list for our members to focus on over the next several months, including projects on a possible bike loop around Lewanika Park to encourage members of the public to get out on their bikes and ride around the township. Also to make updates to our TAC website, complete research into a complete streets policy, and consolidate different resources on hiking trails, sidewalks, parking maps, things of that nature into one place for our residents to view. And I also wanted to note that I was thankful to have been able to participate in last night's meeting with our engineer, Jim Slate, with the residents of Sherman Avenue to go over the reconstruction project with Committeeman Ravitz. And I thought it was a great way and a great forum for the neighbors there to ask their questions straight to our engineer. It's really great that our residents have that kind of opportunity to ask those questions, and I'm looking forward to this project moving forward. And we will, both Committeeman Ravitz and I will be speaking to the rest of the committee about the details and the comments that came from the members of the public that night. But with that, I will yield back.
Thank you. And for my committee reports, I will report on engineering, and our engineering standing committee, which had a meeting just yesterday, or Mr. Ravitz and I, with our engineer, Jim Slate, and administrator, Tim Quinn. It is just amazing how much is going on in Morris Township, how many engineering projects there are. Too much to go into, too many details to go into right now, but I can tell you that I think we have 6 sidewalk projects that we're surveying right now. Is that correct? 6?
Yes.
Yes.
Road reconstruction.
And then on top of that, we have numerous road reconstruction projects. We have Rayner Road, which is underway. We're doing surveying work for Pine Tree, Kennedy, and Gregory. And on the list, and we're also doing Sherman Avenue, as Mr. GYORFY just spoke to. We're looking at Normandy Parkway next. Walnut Street is on the list. Southgate Parkway is on the list. Looking at numerous upgrades across the municipality, and the engineering department is really working very hard on all those things and many, many more. The engineering department also handles all the work at the sewer facility. So while there is a separate sewer standing committee, we did review some of the projects that are ongoing at the sewer plants. We do have 2 sewer plants that require constant maintenance and upgrades. And so they do all the work related to that as well. So thank you to everybody, all our engineers who are working very hard to move those projects forward. I also am chair of the Shared Services Committee, and that includes the Joint Municipal Court. We are part of a joint court with Madison, Harding, Chatham Borough, and Chatham Township, 5 towns that make up that court. It is unfortunate that Harding has announced that they want to leave the joint court and they're going to team up with somebody else. So we discussed that at our joint court meeting this past week. So I wanted to report that to the public. They're the smallest town in the joint court, so it won't adversely affect the operation of the joint court, and we'll be able to move along quite well. But anybody from other towns who is listening in, we have room for one more. So we'll be calling around to others to see if they want to join in. I'm also part of Shared Services, and I've been speaking to this as the project that we kicked off a couple years ago, looking at looking at a shared services study on DPW equipment. We had another meeting, but as I stated previously, Morris Township is the lead agency, and I wanted to thank Mr. Quinn for all his hard work. Morris Township's taking on extra responsibility as the lead agency, and Mr. Quinn has been handling all of those things that need to get done, including filing all the appropriate paperwork for the grant. So on top of his other responsibilities, Mr. Quinn has taken that on too, and I wanted to thank him personally for that and let the public know that project is moving along very nicely. Okay, that's my standing committee reports for tonight, and we will go back and do open comments from the committee members. So, Committeewoman Wilson.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I too wanted to congratulate Kathy Fiorango on being reappointed. She's an extremely competent and valued employee. So congratulations to her on that. I look forward to seeing everyone at Saturday's McNally Field dedication. This is really such a well-deserved tribute to Brian McNally and his family. And I want to say a special thanks to Deputy Mayor GYORFY, who I know has put exceptional time and effort into organizing this event for a very long time. On the HPC ordinance, the historic preservation, this ordinance is awesome. It's been a long time in the making, and I can't wait to take a look at all the pictures they have of the 179 properties they've identified. Huge thanks to the HPC members and also to Jim Slate and Aaron Doherty they've really gone above and beyond to bring this ordinance to fruition. And I think it's really well done. So great job. I wanted to comment on, I wanted to highlight for the public that we have a number of situations going on in which neighboring towns are in the process of considering proposals that will place various types of development on our border. While Morris Township has no jurisdiction on these proposals, I do think it's important for our officials and our residents to be aware of these projects and to monitor their progress, as they do have a direct effect, a direct impact on our town. In each case, the decision-making process includes public meetings, which any of us from Morris Township can attend if we choose. The town, there's a project before their zoning board that would allow 28 rental units to be built in a large building in back of the Care 1. If approved, this building would front onto Turtle Road near the intersection of Madison Avenue. To their credit, Morristown Zoning Board held a site visit this past Saturday, which was very helpful and informative to everyone who attended. And I did attend, and I'm becoming quite a fan of site visits. You can really learn a tremendous amount at a site visit. The next meeting on this project will be July 7th. In Harding, there's a project before their planning board, which will allow 96 residential units, which includes 16 affordables, to be built at the far southern end of the Mount Kimball office complex. A unique feature of this project is that the property is landlocked by Morris Township.
Hey, I'm in a
The
meeting.
only way to enter and exit this property is via the driveway of the office complex.
Are you
Our
available?
Board of Adjustment, Mr. Carlson,
Well, I'm gonna be tied up.
our Board of Adjustment. Mr. Carlson, could you please mute? Thank you. Our Board of Adjustment will be involved in this proposal as variances are needed for driveway and road work, which will literally cross the boundary line of our two towns. That meeting has not yet been scheduled. To their credit, Harding's Planning Board did a site visit on this property on May 15th, which was also extremely informative and helpful. Their next meeting on this proposal will be June 28th, 7:30, and I believe they're resuming in-person meetings, so it'll be at their municipal center. In Hanover, there's a proposal before their governing body to build 210 residential units, which would include 60 affordables at 190 Park Avenue. This is the property immediately adjacent to the Hyatt House, which is located at the corner of Columbia and Park. The proposed height is 70 feet or 5 stories. Proposed density is 60 units per acre. This project is concerning to us for many reasons. Their governing body last week approved this site as an area in need of redevelopment, which means that a redevelopment plan will be developed and will come before their governing body for consideration in the weeks ahead. I plan to attend the public hearings that will be part of that process, and I encourage any of our residents who are interested in this project to consider attending those meetings as well. For me and for many of us on the committee, these projects are representative of a larger concern, as every town in New Jersey is under significant pressure to fulfill their own court-ordered affordable housing obligations. Development activity is accelerating at a concerning pace, and it's creating impacts that go beyond the boundaries of single towns. Many of us see a clear need to add some kind of regional planning mechanism to the mix of ways in which development decisions are made. No such mechanism exists, and creating one is a heavy lift, given our state's longstanding emphasis on home rule. The fact that moving in this direction is hard and delicate does not make it any less important. We referenced this need in the package of land use resolutions we passed at our last meeting. The need to build communication and collaboration with our neighboring towns is very much on our radar, and our efforts are a work in progress. So stay tuned for updates. And in the meantime, I strongly encourage our residents to participate in these public meetings, in part as a way to stay informed, and in part as a way to share input in the form of questions and comments. I also see a connection between the communication that's needed on land use issues and the communication that's needed to build effective shared service agreements. I'm sure the mayor will have more to say about this in his remarks about the shared services grant, which is a tremendous accomplishment. To my view, the more mechanisms or structures we can build to get towns talking with each other and working together, the better. So to be continued. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Committeewoman Wilson. Next up, Peter Mancuso, Committeeman Mancuso.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm proud to be part of the dedication to the McNally Field in Cromwell on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. A well-deserved honor, and I'm so looking forward to it and to seeing the family again, who've been good friends with the township and myself for many years. Danielle Lewis is going to be our new municipal clerk effective July 6th. Kathy Wilson and I and Mr. Quinn have gone through a pretty extensive search process, and we think we have found an excellent replacement for Kathy Emilio, who we will miss, as I said in my last comments last month. We'll miss her very, very much, but we're looking forward to a seamless transition. And in that same vein, we thank you, Dawn McDonald. You've done a great job. One would never know that you haven't been here with us for the last 5 or 10 years. We thank you for acting as a temporary clerk during this period of time. And on the last note, to reiterate what Mr. Ravitz was speaking about as far as pool membership, if you all look back, remember in March, April, we were really concerned because the governor had not lifted the restrictions on numbers of people who could attend outdoor gatherings, including pools. And we had to make some draconian decisions. And fortunately, they all panned out because everyone who wanted to be a member of our pool will be done. So I sum it up with saying Deo gratias, thank God. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Committeeman Ravitz. You need to unmute yourself, sir.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, and thank you to the members of the public who are in attendance tonight for your participation in your local government. Government always works best when the public is informed and engaged. And in keeping with the spirit of civic engagement, I want to thank all of those who voted in the New Jersey primary last week. It's important we exercise our right to vote in all elections. Also, congratulations to Nicholas Chin on attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. I trust you are very proud of your accomplishment. For my public commentary this evening, I'd like to touch on a couple of things. We all need to applaud the vaccination rates in Morris Township. 77% of those 12 and older have had at least one dose. That number increases to 80% of those who are 18 and older. And for those 65 and older, the number is an incredible 91%. 83% of those who are 80 and older have also had at least one dose. The overall numbers for the entire county are also very impressive. And both our county and our township are significantly above the state numbers. So that's really tremendous for us. I encourage please encourage all of your family and friends who are still hesitant to receive their vaccination, that it's safe and extremely effective against all known variants of the virus. We need to keep it that way, and the only way to accomplish it is if we stop the spread of the virus. I realize many people are distrustful of government, news organizations, and even science, and don't know where to turn for accurate information. And that's a problem that affects all of us. It's proper to question what one hears and reads, especially when it's on social media. But we must once again put our trust in the scientific method. To paraphrase renowned astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, science is basically an inoculation against charlatans. And science doesn't care about who you are or your politics or what you want to be true. Also, June is Pride Month, as was mentioned. The history behind how it came to be is one worth knowing. I'm not going to get into that here, but you can easily look that up. It's the perfect time to think about and discuss issues related to the gay rights movement, especially as it gets more attention from the media, during this time, from gay marriage and adoption to transgender rights. Although huge strides have been made for equality over recent years, we still have a long way to go. Let's keep in mind, when a demographic group feels discriminated against, and demands equal treatment under law, it's not an infringement or in any way diminishes anybody else's rights. The golden rule simply states, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Let's have some empathy for our fellow citizens and our fellow humans. Let's not kick down to the people who have less political or economic power as some of us might now enjoy. Rather, let's face up to those who profit from our division. And we'll see you Saturday at the McNally Field dedication, and turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor GYORFY.
Thank you, Mayor. And for a fourth time, we are dedicating a field on Saturday. It's a really special event. It's been a pleasure to work with the committee, with Mr. Quinn, with Parks and Rec, Bill Fulston, Hamfelt. Jenny Mantek was a huge help as well, and Barbara and Kevin McNally. Really, over the past year and a half, we had intended to dedicate this park last year, but obviously, due to COVID, we were forced to postpone. And I'm glad we postponed. I'm glad we didn't do it, virtually or a very small function with just a few family members. I'm glad we're able to invite the public. The agenda is a great agenda, is an impressive agenda where the First Lady of New Jersey will be there. The head of the state police will be there. I believe the Attorney General will be trying to make it as well. There will be a huge showing of support, and rightfully so, for the McNallys, with members of the Minutemen Fire Department, state troopers, Township Police, U.S. Marine Corps, veterans groups, Mounted Police, Color Guard, and it's all well-deserving because Brian's legacy of public service, should be celebrated, and we will certainly be doing that on Saturday. So I invite everyone to join us then. I wanted to thank Don McDonald for all of her work as our interim clerk. As Peter said, you wouldn't have known she was only here temporarily because everything went so smoothly. Congrats to Danielle Lewis, and best of luck coming up here. We're excited to meet you in person when you start your new role as the municipal clerk. And congratulations to Kathy Villarango on reaching your milestone this evening as well. So with that, Mayor, I will yield back.
Thank you. Last month, we acknowledged a Gun Violence Awareness Month. That is the month of June, but we acknowledged it in May because June 4th was Gun Violence Awareness Day. But I do want to again acknowledge that this month is Gun Violence Awareness Month. I'm wearing orange to acknowledge that myself. It's amazing that gun violence continues across our country. We've almost become immune to it. But just this past weekend, as one example, 13 people in Austin, Texas were shot at one gun violence event there. And it's just a continuing problem. So we should all be aware of that and all fight to make our country safer in that respect. I wanted to bring attention to two items on the consent calendar, both related. One is the removal of Amory Vasso from OEM membership. He is moving out of state. He's also being removed from the roles of Hillside Hose. I wanted to acknowledge his service to the community. He is a great servant, and it's going to be a huge loss for Morris Township. He was part of our Office of Emergency Management team, as well as a volunteer firefighter at Hillside. On top of that, one of his roles of public service was he was the head of which veterans organization? American Legion. In New Jersey here, and we are sorry that he is leaving, but we all wish him very well in his new state of choice. We won't say where that is, but we wish him well, and thank you so much, Amory, for your service to our community. With that, I will move on the agenda. If I can find my place.
Public commentary.
Public commentary. So we will move back to our second round of public commentary. If you have any questions or comments for the committee that you would like to share, please raise your hand and you will be acknowledged.
Mrs. Memmer.
Mrs. Memmer. Very good. Mrs. Memmer.
Yes, Marley Memmer, 63 Independence Way. Last month, I was having some problems with my Zoom connection, but I really wanted to send my congratulations to Kathy Amelia on her retirement and wish her and her family many happy, healthy years ahead. I always enjoyed when I was attending the meetings, stopping to chat with Kathy on my way into the meeting. So she will be missed. The second thing I wanted to ask about was, did you say that we had a resolution 145-21 that you approved this evening?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I did not have that on my I have my copy of the agenda in front of me, and I did not have that listed. I was wondering, maybe I made.
So that was authorization of the Township Committee to enter into a group use agreement for the use of the Morris Township swimming pools with the Greater Morristown YMCA Y-Zone Day Camp. So we often offer our pools for rent to organizations to come in, and that resolution related to that.
Okay, thank you very much. The last thing I have this evening is that in April, I had mentioned that I had signed up to be notified of my property tax and sewer bills when they became due. And I believe I did that last, I guess in September of last 2020, I forget. Yeah, it was September 2020. And I believe I received one, but I have not been receiving these notifications. But the one thing I did receive, and which I wanted to just talk about, was that there was a new event, grace period for the payment of property taxes ends for Morris Township. I did receive that notice. So that I believe we did have a grace period all these years for the property taxes are due on the 1st of, well, the next one is August, correct? Yes, the first of the month. So now we are no longer getting that grace period.
No, you will still have that grace period. This is a approximate bill that we put out because we can't formalize the tax bills until the state of New Jersey finalizes their budget, which oftentimes is the middle or the beginning of July, right? Everything gets out. Then we have to extend that grace period sometimes up to September. So we do the temporary bill, so it maintains that August 1st payment, and you certainly have the 10 days for that grace period.
So we would have, well, for all the payments then, whenever, we still have that 10-day grace period then. The notice mentioned that you have drop boxes for the property taxes outside the doors of the building. Is the municipal building open?
The front foyer is open, and you can bring your payment inside to the front foyer, and we have an attendant there that will assist you with making that payment.
Okay. The other thing that I noted was that I have been working on getting a bill pay for a number of my bills. I noticed that there was a notation that in order to pay the taxes, you do not have electronic banking for that. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Oh, okay. So if I were to pay my tax bill through bill pay, I could, it will go through electronically then, correct?
That would be up to bill pay. That's a private service we have no control over.
I see. How would you have the electronic one then? Do you have a special way of paying that bill?
Anyone who wishes to go on can go on through the portal that's on the website, and you can pay it directly with a deduction from your bank account. You also have the ability for us to automatically deduct it from your bank account if you wish.
I see. But a bill pay is a different type of thing.
That's a private service.
Okay, if I were to pay a bill pay, there was a comment that I need the block, lot, and qualifying number and or account number in the memo section.
Okay.
And well, which is it? The and or account number, or for us, is it the block, lot, and qualifying number that we have?
That would be the most appropriate, because that's how everything is.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would say
yes,
also make sure, like using bill pay,
Yes,
They have to send us a paper check that we get in that 10-day grace period where you would be subject to
Exactly.
interest charges.
exactly. Thank you very much, Mr. Quinn. Thank you. That's all for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Memmer. Do we have anybody else?
I move to close the public portion.
I second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Very,
Aye.
very good. Next, we have consideration of monthly reports. The following reports for the month of May are on file in the office of the Township Clerk, Township Administrator, those being Tax Collector, Finance, Police, Joint Court, Joint Library, and Fire. Will somebody move the monthly reports?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Next, we have claims for payment, list of bills and vouchers totaling $8,647,079.94. And as a reminder, the Township of Morris is the tax collector for the school district and the county and the library, and then we disperse those funds, and that's why the number is so high. It's not just coming from us. Will somebody move the claims for payment?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second, roll call, please. Madam Clerk, are you there? Yes, very
Mr.
good.
GYORFY,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. And lastly, we have adjournment to our next meeting on July 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. It's the regular meeting of the Township Committee that starts with a 5 p.m. closed session, and then we will have our open session at 7 p.m. Will somebody move that we adjourn?
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Mayor.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you on July 21st at 7 p.m.
Or on
Have a good
Saturday
night.
at the field.
Everyone.
Yes, or on Saturday at the field. We hope we'll see you Saturday. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.